Hello, everyone. On behalf of Tim and on behalf of Barb's family and friends, I'd like to welcome you here today and to those from afar as well. Thank you for coming. We're going to start with one of Barb's favorite songs.
That's what you are.
Unforgettable, though near or far.
Like a song of love that clings to me. How the thought of you does things to me. Never before has someone been more
Unforgettable in every way.
and forevermore.
And forevermore.
That's how you'll stay.
That's how you'll stay.
That's why, darling, it's incredible that someone so unforgettable
Thinks that I am unforgettable too. Someone been more unforgettable in every way. And forevermore. That's how you'll stay.
That's how you stay. That's why, darling, it's incredible
That someone so unforgettable thinks that I am unforgettable too.
I just said to Tim that Barb would have been dancing to that song. Okay, first, just a few housekeeping items. First of all, washrooms, women's is there, men's is just to the left of the entrance. Exits there, exit here, exit where you came in. If you don't have a name tag, please take one. Barb loved to mingle. And I know that she would want us to mingle today and socialize, find out who that person is, find out something about them. There'll be light snacks and refreshments after the program. We're here till about 5 o'clock. Out-of-town guests, a reminder to join Tim and Barb's family at the cabin afterwards. The address is on the back of the program. Please park in the grass field just to the right inside the gate. Please take note of the amazing collection of photos that Tim put together for today. It's a sample of Barb's journey through life. Adventures with Barb, Tim, family, friends, four-legged friends, and nature. Barb was the ultimate collector of accessories, and in particular, reusable, practical, and whimsical bags and scarves. Today, we brought some of her bags to share with you. The bags are in the back corner. Barb would love for her bags to continue to adventure with her family and friends. So please take a bag or two with you. Susan has said if she sees people leave without a bag, she will chase you down. After the formal program and after we get up to stretch our legs and have a drink and a snack, the mic will be open for anyone to share a story or a thought about Barb. Because we know everybody has lots of great stories, so if you want to share, just come up and do that. So my name is also Barb, and I've had the privilege of being a close friend and colleague of our delightful Barbara Jane Chambers for about 30 years. I am now fondly known as Barb number 2 to Barb's family and close friends, and I'm fine with that. And one of those Dr. Barbs. Many professional clients over the years got us mixed up. We had lots of fun with that. Today we will hear some fun stories and memories from those who knew Barb well, and hear about those characteristics that we've all experienced as our paths intersected with hers over the years. To start, I'd like to highlight a letter that Barb received from a friend in mid-January. It's on the inside of your program. Please read it when you have a chance. But this letter encapsulates Barb. Many comments will ring true to all of her friends. Comments like, photography is just one of your many gifts. You made it a priority to visit and stay connected. You and Tim have always been considered part of our family. You have a way of making people feel like they really matter. What a gift you were to your clients. Thank you for your encouragement. I am so grateful for all the love and laughter we have shared through the years. I will always think of you when I see a beautiful garden. Barb embraced both her career and her personal life with vitality, curiosity, and optimism. One of the most optimistic people I've ever met. Barb and I could talk for hours about complex clinical presentations, or a new book, or a movie, or the flowers and trees surrounding us on a hike. It didn't matter. Barb's thirst for knowledge was infectious, and her drive for adventure beyond most people's threshold. She was disciplined with her health and fitness goals, running every day, taking on endless new adventures with Tim and her friends, as the photos attest to. Even during some of the difficult times last year with her illness, Barb pushed forward and kept on walking, however far she could manage. She counted her steps and she clocked them, and she would happily share with all of her friends and family how much she did that day. I chuckle about some text I received from her when she was in the hospital last fall. They told her not to push it with exercise for a change, just lay low. And so when no one was around, she decided she would make her own bed in the hospital, give the staff a break, and told me in doing so, she did squats all the way around the bed frame when no one was looking. Barb's career brought so much fulfillment to her life. It was never really work. We agreed wholeheartedly on that. It was just fun to talk to people, figure things out, try to make a bit of a difference every day, and that she did. So much to understand, analyze, and problem solve. We got such joy out of bouncing ideas around. With Barb, it was always so refreshing. We never ran out of things to talk about. One of our first fun work adventures occurred shortly after Barb joined me in private practice. I went to pick her up for a day at a federal prison a few hours up the highway from Calgary. we were off to do parole assessments, meet some intriguing clients. That was really fun in our world. We understood that. It was my first time meeting Tim that day, and I showed up at the house, and he looked startled when he saw me, and I thought, oh, didn't know I was coming. Around the corner came Barb, and we were wearing the exact same outfit. The same color, blazer, pants, shirt, shoes. We laughed and laughed, and off we went for our fun day at the prison, the Barbsy twins. We got a bit of a reaction from some folks in the prison, thinking they were seeing double or something, I'm not sure. Fast forward almost 30 years, when we deliberately dressed similarly, this time in pink when we went to the Barbie movie just a few years ago. What fun that was. And we didn't get a photo, I don't know why not. That was awesome. As with many of you, Tim and Barb became intertwined in our family's life. Through various stages and Tim and Barb's many moves, through sports, adventures, universities, weddings, and grandkids. One of Barb's favorite recollections that we laughed about earlier this year when she was in hospital was when we visited my daughter when she was in university in Bozeman, Montana. It happened to be Mother's Day, and the restaurants and stores were giving freebies for all the mums. Barb and I both enjoyed lots of treats, and someone finally noted that it was amazing that Tara had two mums named Barb. What are the odds? So we went with the charade all day and just had a lot of fun with it. Before moving on, I wanted to let you know that Barb played a big part in planning today's gathering. You will know that she was an organizer and good at giving directions. Her instructions for today, at least to me, and I'm sure to everyone else, were that there should be smiles and laughter, that there would be cheers, not tears. We'll try our best. But with that, let's listen to this song that captures her spirit.
Are you having any fun? What you getting out of living? Who cares for what you've got if you're not having any fun? Are you having any laugh? Are you getting any loving? If other people do, why can't you have a little fun? After the honey's in the comb, all the bees go out and play. Even the old gray mare down home has got to have, hey, better have a little fun. You ain't gonna live forever, so while you're young and gay, still okay, have a little fun.
She would have danced to that one too. Next, I'd like to introduce Barb's siblings, Susan, David, and Peter Chambers.
Well, I was going to introduce us, but I don't have to now. But I would like, for the record, is I am the younger sister, because that used to make me mad when people would go, which one's the youngest one? Or I'm like, oh. So Dave has the best memory out of all three of us, so he's going to tell some stories about Barb as our big sister when we were little, and then I'm going to stay up and tell a few stories when my memory kicked in. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for coming out. It's honor to have everyone come to help us celebrate Barbara. And so I'm not quite used to talking. We've always had a big sister Barbie to do talking for us, and sometimes Barb liked to talk. And she's been trying to train Sue to take over. But today I've got a few words, so we'll try it. Many of you know Barb professionally, as a relative, a co-worker, school friend, or socially. I'm in a select group of 3 people right here that know Barb as our big sister. So I'd like to share some of our childhood memories going back to, I guess, when I was 3.5 to 4 years old, and moving forward through our childhood. So a couple years ago, Barb and Tim joined my wife Dawn and I in Ucluelet for a day hike along the coast. There was low tide, and we were able to venture out onto the ocean floor to check out the small tidal pools. Barb was on her knees, face close to the water, amazed at everything and all the creatures in this self-contained ecosystem. This brought back some of my earliest memories of Barb. At the time, she would be 7 years old, and on the bank of the Lynn Creek, which was a small river that ran behind her house in Whitby, Ontario. Barb loved spending time exploring all the things the small creek had, and many days would come home with a jar filled with the catch of the day to obviously study. These could be tadpoles, crayfish, minnows, frogs, turtles. By the way, turtles smell pretty bad in captivity after a few days. One afternoon, the police arrived at her house in the summer. Dad was away, but Barb, Peter, and I were ordered to remain in the backyard. And as the police made their way down the stairs in the house with their guns drawn at the time, we were a little confusing. Sometime later, they emerged with a box. Turns out the box contained a snake. Apparently, Barbie and a friend had caught the snake and decided it would be a great idea to keep it for a while. Snakes like cool, dark places, so naturally our basement was a good option. So anyway, I was terrified. Dad was away. Naturally, the police were called to help serve and protect, so they were the only ones. In hindsight, the guns actually might have been flashlights, but as this story is about Barb, who wants to go, and we don't need to worry about the minor details like that. Barb was always looking for that extra bit in the story. I was kind of worried that Barb was actually going to be taken away to jail in handcuffs as well, because when the police arrived, that's what they did, at least in the TV shows and movies. Barb always loved having pets. First pets I remember was Hammy the hamster, which turned into Hammy number 2, 3, 4, and 5. Apparently hamsters don't have a long life cycle, but anyway. One of the earliest memories is Barb really got a kick out of seeing how many nuts a hamster could get in its pouch. So she'd keep feeding, the hamster would keep poking them in. We'd be wondered, like, Barb, you're going to kill the hamster, like it can't move. But anyway, that was just, she did it all the time. Great. Hammy didn't spend too much time in his cage. Barb preferred to go and have it live in her pocket, whether it was in her PJs, her shirt, whatever. The hamster was always out. Hamster was lost quite a bit of the time, but eventually always returned for food. Mom received a call one day from the school requesting that Barb was not to bring her pet to school in the future. Seems Barb had forgotten to take it out of her shirt pocket and went to school for the day. And with a hamster. Teacher wasn't impressed, but on the bright side, the police weren't called. Soon after Sue was born, we moved from Whitby to our new house in Port Perry, and it was surrounded by vacant lots full of apple trees. Somehow, Barb was able to convince Mom and Dad, as well as the owner of the property, that this would be a great place for her to keep her pony. And I think there's some pictures of Barb with her pony. So if you can look at a small town with a pony kept in your backyard, I'm not sure how she pulled this one off. She was very convincing, though. Barb loved the Shetland pony she called Flicka. Riding, tending to her ponies soon progressed into teaching tricks, such as counting by stamping her foot, which then progressed to teaching cats, dogs, anything she had. I'm not sure if she could train her for goldfish, but she was always trying to go that extra step. Mom was not always thrilled, as Barb had a habit of leaving the garage door open while she fetched water or carrots, only to find the pony standing quietly in the back hallway of the house waiting. Another day found Mom horrified at the sight of one of our neighbor boys laying flat out unconscious on the ground after being peeled off by the pony. Turns out the boy was trying to impress everyone with his equestrian skills. Pony wasn't impressed, took the bit in his mouth, headed for the closest low branch it could, peeled the boy off, bolted down, and kept on going. Barb was screaming. Mom thought the boy was dead. Pony took off running down the Highway 7A through Port Perry. Barb immediately took control of the matter, though, and after prioritizing the situation, decided to do the right thing. She went after the pony. Mom tended to the boy that was now conscious. So in the end, boy recovered, pony was caught, nobody was sued. But Barb's most prized possession of all was her baby sister, who arrived when Barb was 8. 3 of us were in the back seat of the car when Dad drove to the hospital to pick up Mom and newborn Susie. There was no babysits back in those days, and since it was like there's already 3 kids, we didn't, safety wasn't that much of a concern at the time. Anyway, the baby Susie was placed into Barbara's arms, and from that day on, the bond was formed. From this moment, lifelong sisterhood bond was formed, growing stronger and stronger every year as things passed. And Barb nurtured, loved her new baby sister. Who needs a Barbie doll when you have a Susie? Barb would often use Susie, Peter, and I for her own entertainment, and most often it was at our expense. Susie is a physics experiment to measure how far she could be slingshot while tethered in her jolly jumpers. It's pretty simple. Grab her feet, pull back on, and as tight as you could on the spring, let her go, see how far she could fly. If she didn't cry, didn't hit the wall, no one was hurt, repeat. NASA had a training exercise back in those days as well. Involved spinning astronauts in a centrifuge. I think Barb needed to determine if Susie had the stuff to become an astronaut. This would involve spinning Sue in circles to see how many revolutions she could do before she collapsed on the floor. Then watched amused as she stumbled around trying to regain her balance. Sue loved the attention from her big sister and always trusted that her big sister would always do her right. Yeah, that's right. And in the future, Barb was always, Sue, try this. Yeah. And naturally, Sue. Barb loved to make up skits and plays for us to perform in. Often this included dressing up her pony, her dog, whatever other pet she had at the time that needed to be included. Of course, Barb was always producer and director. Sue was born in November, and a month later made her first cameo appearance as a baby Jesus in a basket, the Barb's version of the Christmas story. Peter and I were the wise men, and of course, Barb was the narrator because she likes to talk. Perhaps the most memorable show was when she dressed Peter and I in tutus and had us perform ballet moves that she choreographed.
There's a picture of it up there.
No. Is there?
I don't know, I think so.
Anyway. I didn't see. Yes, anyway, this was part of the life. Whenever she spoke of this, which she reminded me of year in, year out for years, she always broke out in laughter, had a huge smile on her face, normally twirling her hair, and it was just, this is what Barbara did. I didn't really think it was that funny myself, though, but Barbara and her friend Susan Johnstone were inspired by a trip to the CNE and decided to build their own very own house of horrors in our basement. They toiled away for most of the day. Pete and I were forbidden to see what the setup was. We were finally summoned, blindfolded, lights turned out, guided through the various horror elements that they'd assembled, using scary things like wet nylons, mop heads, warm, squishy stuff, and their best scary sound effects they could muster. Peter and I had the bejesus scared out of us. Barb and Susan were thoroughly amused and proud of their efforts. Mission accomplished. Barbara the Great was the stage name she used during her Barbara Magic shows. She received a magic gift, kit as a gift, and immediately immersed herself into honing the art of magic. She put together a show with a traditional pick a card, make a coin disappear, transform an apple into an orange, but her premier act was using her psychic abilities to telepathically know a number that was given to a faithful assistant. We had like this. We'd pick a number between 1 and 10, whisper it to the assistant. Barbara would then place her hands over the assistant's head, mumble some mumbo jumbo, maybe hum a bit, roll her eyes, and boom, presto, she knew the number. Amazing. We were pretty impressed. So she repeated that 3 or 4 times, and it worked every time. So then Peter and I were wondering, well, we'd like to be the medium too, because we'd like to try that. And unfortunately, we were told our brains weren't developed enough, and we couldn't sufficiently concentrate to be able to telepathically transfer these things. By the way, her assistant was our dad, so I'm not really sure if this was really above board or if something was in the works. Another psychic trick she would pull on us, and it worked a few times, was being able to precisely predict when the phone was going to ring, and she counted down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ring. And that was pretty impressive too. She did that week after week. And then we were kind of wondering, there's a bit of a timing issue here. So there's a couple questions. How come it always rings at the end of the Leafs' first period? Why is it always Susan that's calling? So it turns out Barbara knew that precisely as soon as the buzzer went at the end of the first period, Susan was already on the rotary dial phone dialing. Barb had figured out how long it took for the rotary to go, timed it, and thus would start counting off. And the phone would ring. Busted. We figured that one out on our own. The only, nope,
You missing a page?
I'm missing, got it. As a 7-year-old, I couldn't quite understand why Susan and Barb would be spending the entire intermission talking about players like maybe Lanny, Daryl, or Spinner Spencer when they could have been, focusing on Howie Meeker's expert analysis of what happened in the period, or, telling all us young kids what we could do to improve our games at home and, play like a pro. Sad to say at this point, I realized my entertainment value to Barb was being diluted by her newfound interest in the game of hockey. Or was it hockey players? Recently after that, Barb also got a small horse whose name was Spinner, and after Spinner Spencer. So, Tim, there might have been other hockey players out there too. As far back as I can remember, Barb has always had a voracious appetite for knowledge. She always had 2 or 3 books on the go, and would often need to verify what she had either read, saw, heard, and had many questions. For this, she utilized her encyclopedia, which in our house was her father. When Barb had a question, and she had lots of questions, she was not easily placated by simple answers and would follow up with, but why? That would go on for some time until she was either satisfied with what she learned, or Dad would declare, "What are you, a Philadelphia lawyer?" Which also meant at the time, "I'm done." End of discussion. At this point, Peter or I, feeling brave, would ask, "Dad, what's a Philadelphia lawyer?" And he'd reply, "Your sister." For years, I never knew what a Philadelphia lawyer was, so eventually I looked it up, and I learned the phrase went back to 1778 and described a meticulous lawyer who knew detailed and minute points of law. And that's exactly what Barbara Jane was. She always needed to know minute and detailed facts about everyone, whether it was people's lives, a fish in a bowl, things in the tidal pools, and that's our big sister, Barbara Jane.
Well done, David. Okay, I will continue. So, in the spirit of celebrating Barb, hello. Are we good? I thought I would share the sometimes quirky or unique characteristics that you might not know about Barb. So, Barb could not stand the feeling of a wooden popsicle stick. So it would give her the heebie-jeebies. And if you ever saw Barb go, "Eeeh!" That was Barb with the heebie-jeebies, and lots of things gave her the heebie-jeebies. But when Barb ate a popsicle, she would have to meticulously wrap the popsicle stick so that she couldn't feel the wood. And if you've ever had the pleasure of sharing a hotel room with Barb, in the morning after, there would never be any towels in the washroom, because Barb claimed that even with her eyes closed, with a sleeping mask on, if there was one minute piece of light anywhere in the room, she could not sleep. And I used to call her the princess in the pea, because I'm just like, can't you just close your eyes? And so she would have to go through and put a towel over the TV, a towel over the clock radio, a towel over, if you were charging your phone or your computer, a towel would be over that, and you'd get up in the morning and there'd be no towels in the bathroom. So that was Barb, with no light in the room. And she was also very excitedly bragged about her expert eavesdropping skills. So, and she would tell people, she's like, "I am the best eavesdropper around." So you would go out for lunch with Barb, and she could be 100% present and focused on what you were talking about. But her ears would be picking up. If there was something going on, Barb would be tuned in to everything going on around her. So, and as we know, Barb loves to talk and know about people. So if she could get a 3-for-1 deal, she was like so excited. And she'd be like, "You had no idea what's going on at the table next to us." So, and to go with what Dave was talking about, her knowledge. So Barb was a self-proclaimed maven. And a maven is someone who's an expert on a topic. They know a lot about a particular subject. But Barb I called her a maven on steroids, because she knew something about everything. So you could be in a restaurant, there'd be some obscure thing on the menu, and you'd be like, "What is this?" And Barb would be like, "Yeah, that's a blah, 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 blah." And you could say, "I want to buy a pair of hiking boots. I wonder what pair." And she'd be like, "Well, these are the top 3 hiking boots. These are the pros and the cons. This is where they're made. This is the quality of the material. And this is the price of them." And you'd be like, "Okay." And she would just rhyme it off, and she was right all the time. If you were looking for the latest trend on beauty products, if you wanted to buy sheets, if like the fashion trends, she just knew everything. Like, you just picked up the phone and she was there. So, and the best thing is if you wanted to have a recommendation for a book, she would know exactly what kind of books you wanted to read. She could recommend 4 or 5 books. She'd tell you the author, the plot, and more than likely she would have them on her bookshelf in the house, and she'd be able to go and get you a book and hand it to you. And if you happened to come up with something she didn't know about, within 24 hours, she would have that researched and she'd be right back at you with the information. And as a few people have talked about, Barb loved to run. So she would always talk about, she ran her first 10K in 1979 in Gage Park in Hamilton. And she has not stopped running since then, always running 3 to 5 times a week. And her last run was within like 2 or 3 weeks of her diagnosis. Like she was running right up until the end. In Calgary, Tim verified -12 was about her cutoff. So if it was below -12, she would either come in the house and run the stairs, or she would figure out, she'd be doing squats. She would just figure out something to do. She was so committed to her workout. And then when Barb and Tim moved to Atlanta, she would get up at 4 or 5 in the morning because the humidity there was so bad and she would not give up her run. So she would do anything she could before the wall of humidity hit. And so for me, Barb's commitment to fitness was admirable and inspiring. And yeah. And Barb thought she was a good singer. So I, after a few beers, think I'm a good singer too. So I have to give kudos to Tim, who many times was held captive in a car on a road trip with Barb and I singing at the top of our lungs, sounding music, supercalifragilistic, like all the Mary Poppins. So well done for Tim, because he actually endured a few hard sing-a-thongs. Yeah. Barb loved birthdays. So I can absolutely say Barb never worked a day on her birthday. Never. Like it was like planned months in advance, and it wasn't just a day off. Barb would plan it. Tim would sometimes surprise her with birthday plans, but it always included, she loved breakfast, so it always included an amazing breakfast. She always went for a run on her birthday, and she always went for a swim. I was going to say there's a picture of her swimming on her birthday in the back in a spectacular lake. So that was Barb's birthday, and she loved other people's birthdays too. So if she knew that one of her close friends or family had a birthday coming, she would go out of her way to plan the birthday, be there. She'd always have a thoughtful card and always a very thoughtful gift. So Barb always made birthdays fun. But the best thing about Barb was her zest for life. So Barb was, so many people, when they talk about Barb, they say she was vivacious, and it was a great word. She would have loved that word. So I always knew when I saw Barb, we would have fun. We would laugh hysterically, probably about not much. And there was always, Barb would always have some crazy stories to tell. And there would usually be an adventure to be had. And we just had a lot of fun. So I thought I would tell a story about probably the most fun adventure that we had, that we laughed about right up until the last day. So Tim had a job coaching in Atlanta. He went down a month or two ahead to get started on his job and to buy a house. Barb stayed back. She wrapped up her work, got the house packed up. And she came up with this great idea that she wanted to do a 3-week road trip from Calgary to Atlanta. And I was going to be her co-pilot. Hence, the Bad Girls road trip adventure began. And so the day we left, mountain bikes were on the top of the car. We were packed to the ceiling with all of our camping things. And we had good old-fashioned maps. I was thinking about that. We had maps. We had our book of CDs. We sang along to Elton John and Neil Diamond a bit too many times on that trip. And we also had Jenny the Tree. So if you see pictures of our Bad Girls road trip, we have Jenny the Tree. So Jenny the Tree was a sapling from a silver maple tree that grew at Aunt Anne's backyard at the time. And that tree came from Granny Cowan's tree in Sarnia. And Barb, loving family and loving Canada, wanted to take this sapling with her. So little Jenny the Tree was put in a pot, and she came along for the ride. And Jenny camped with us. She was with us the whole time. So September 26th, we were off. We were like so excited. Our happiness instantly turned to dismay because Barb was almost arrested at the border. So it took us 3 days to cross the border, so it was a bit of a hard time. We had a very nasty customs agent who said to Barb, the only way you are getting across this border is to get married. And for those who know Barb, that was not a good scenario. So lots of time on the phone with immigration lawyers, blah, 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 that sort of stuff. And the nasty customs woman said, and if you try to cross anywhere else, you will be thrown in jail. So the next day, off we go to the next border crossing. I am role-playing with Barb how to lie as well as she could. And we all of a sudden then realized Jenny the tree was illegal, right? Like you can't take plants across the border. So we pulled over at a grocery store, we bought celery, we bought parsley, and Jenny was taken out of her pot and put in a Ziploc bag incognito as a green leafy thing. So, my God. Anyways, after many hours, we got across, great relief, and Jenny made it as well. So, yeah. Anyway, and I could go on for hours with the stories of this trip, but 3 weeks we drove through 13 states. We visited Yellowstone, Grand Tetons, Flaming Gorge, Black Canyon of the Gunnison, Mesa Verde, Hot Springs. We crossed the Continental Divide 7 times. And on the trip, so Barb gave me the Bad Girls Road Trip Guide. She said, Susan, I found it. Tim bought it. You love it. And we live it. Atlanta or bus, September 2001. So we had the Bad Girls Road Trip Guide. We had Bad Girls Road Trip jewelry. And we had Bad Girls aliases. So Barb was Star with 2 R's. I was Daisy with an IE. Just in case we got in trouble and we called each other, we would use our alias to let them know we were in trouble. The car was named Big Chief Pat, and the car also had an alias of the Green Hornet. I have no idea why. Anyways, fun was had. So when so we were officially bad girls. So we thought Barb getting almost arrested at the border qualified as a bad girl behavior. Smuggling Jenny the tree was bad girl behavior. We drove through a tornado in Oklahoma, which was fun. We had a whole list of our bad girl things in the back of this book. So we once parked in a handicapped parking spot and we didn't pay for parking. So bad girls. We went the wrong way down a one-way street in a campground with no other cars in it, but we felt bad. Yeah. We stole apples, oranges, and cream cheese from a continental breakfast, which was included in our stay, but we felt bad because, that was something we wouldn't normally do. Barb made me run into a gas station and steal mustard packages, so that was bad girl. And the best thing is that we went 2 days without showering. Bad girl behavior. So, yes. So, as you can tell, we just had tons of fun. So, you can't help but think about Barb without a big smile on your face. And I will continue the adventures and the fun in Barb's memory. Yeah.
Next, we're going to hear from Susan Johnston, Barb's childhood friend. I think it's you.
It's just water for right now, but later, yeah. I did know Barbara. We met in Port Perry when Barb was 9 and I was 10, and we were immediately best friends. I mean, from that moment, we were inseparable. We were, as everybody has, previously said, Barb liked to talk, right? And so did I, and we were constantly talking, making up stories and all sorts of inside jokes, which I will not elaborate on here because no. And that frequently got us into trouble with our teachers. And they would try separating us, but no one could stop us from talking. Nobody. For 60 years, nobody stopped us. Yeah, except for the Terminator. Yeah, like after at the 2 hour point, he was like, okay. So some of my favorite memories are the two of us just walking around and around the high school track in Port Perry after school. We would just be talking for hours and hours about everything and nothing. Life, boys, dreams, what a black hole is, and our unending hair problems. I mean, that was a big one for us, our hair. And it was right up till the end. Watching Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday nights, cheering on the Leafs, and as Dave mentioned, Barb had a thing for Spinner Spencer there. She really, I'm not surprised that she's with Tim because she really loved hockey. She really did. Barb, she left all her diaries to me, and I never ever saw any of them until just recently, after she passed. And my God, she talked about hockey a lot. She would write pages of the game, like a game would be, and she would write the whole thing, like all the plays, all the moves. Like it was really something. Yeah. And our favorite movie was Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And we watched that. We saw that movie together 8 times. One time we decided that we wanted to see an actual sunrise. Like, we wanted to see the sun come up. So we sneaked out of our respective houses, one really, really cold December morning, and we walked over to behind the Port Perry High School. There was a big hill. So we went out there in the dark, and we just waited. And I just remember Barb going like this, "Sun, rise." And she just kept doing it, sun, rise. Because we were like freezing cold standing out there. We both really loved animals, needless to say, Barb, especially horses. And we would go riding together whenever we could scrape up enough money to, to rent at the local stable. In grade 9, Barb and I decided that our environmental science class really needed a monkey. Like, we needed a monkey. So we began this really intense campaign to get one. I mean, Barb was really good at that kind of thing. And we had plans, like we were going to sell chocolate bars to all the kids at school and raise enough money to get this monkey. So all was really going well. Like, we were actually starting to sell chocolate bars and everything. And then one day, everything was good until the day that we approached our teacher, Mr. Burt, and I know a few of you in here might know who Mr. Burt was. Like, he was a real husky, tough guy. Anyway, we went up to him and we said, like for the 40th time, "Mr. Burt, when are we going to get the monkey?" And he just looked at us, like he didn't say anything for a few minutes. He just waited, and then he said, "You're never going to get a monkey." Over my dead body. And that was the end of that. We had to give up. Another time, when we were somewhat older, Barb and I ended up in jail. And I've heard some of the other stories. It seems like Barb kind of had an attraction to that. I don't know. So she had arrived at my apartment in Toronto to rescue me, basically, from like an unpleasant situation. And we somehow ended up on the wrong bus in the middle of nowhere, like somewhere, I don't know, north of Toronto. And it was close to midnight. So we called 911 from a payphone, because it was the olden days. And the police picked us up. And since it was so late, they very kindly let us spend the night in the jail. Yeah, that was a real fun sleepover, that one. Another time, again, this is when Barb was in university. She was at U of Guelph. And I was working for Toronto Humane Society at the time. So I smuggled in, I rescued a chinchilla from the Humane Society. It was meant to be euthanized. And what I didn't know, I guess this is why it was supposed to be euthanized, it had epilepsy. And I didn't know that. Anyway, so I rescued him. I took him. I stole him from the Humane Society. And I put him in a bag, and I got on a bus, and I went to Guelph. And Barb had no idea I'm bringing her a chinchilla. Anyway, well, she was very happy to have him. You know, I guess from her hamster days, like she loved little animals like that. Anyway, she was very happy to have him. And she named him Frodo Baggins, because that was her Lord of the Rings period. Well, anyway, because he was epileptic, I mean, well, she didn't even know at first. I mean, none of us did. And this is how she found out. She had a roommate, and one night, screaming is happening. Her roommate is screaming. It turns out that little Frodo had climbed up, like Barb liked to just let him run loose, right? Like she didn't put him in his little habitat that she made. He's just running around the room. Anyway, so he was on her roommate's pillow having a fit. And yeah, he was having a fit. And he was okay after that. He lived for like 3 more years while Barb was at school. Excuse me, get a drink. Barb was with me through some of the hardest moments of my life. When my dad died suddenly when I was 14, she was there. And when my mom died, she came to the funeral unexpectedly. Like I had no idea she was going to come. And by the end of that day, like she knew everyone in the room. That was Barb. She could talk to anyone. She could connect with anyone. And she loved people, as everybody knows. Like she loved hearing their stories and getting to know them. And, she was not a huge fan of marriage, as we know. But she was still my maid of honor at 2 of my weddings. Not the 3rd one, but yeah, she was there for 2 of them. She was always honest with me. If I was wrong about something or I was like just being a jerk, she would let me know. And when I was down or I was struggling with a decision, she was really the only person I could talk to. Like even now, when I'm stuck on something, like I ask myself, what would Barb say? Like what would she do? Barb, you were with me through thick and thin, through everything. And I want to thank you for listening to me for the past 60 years. You lifted me up when I was down, and you made me look up. Thank you for being my best friend, Barb. I love you, and I miss you more than words can say.
Thank you, Susan. Next, we're going to hear from Jane Riddell saying some thoughts about Barb.
For those of you in the room who don't know who I am a former president of Good Life Fitness. I retired a year ago, but I'm here to speak to you a little bit about Barb's impact on our company and specifically on our people. So I first met Barb about 20 years ago through her sister Sue, who was a colleague and a great friend. Sue had invited me down to Burlington, Vermont for a weekend when Tim and Barb were living there. And they were absolutely marvelous hosts. We had a fabulous time. We went hiking, we were shopping. I'll never forget the time I bought a chair and Sue came by. I was sitting in the chair in the window of the store. It was just, it was meant to be. I needed that chair. And I remember playing with the kittens that you had just recently adopted, Marcy and Marshall. Marshall thought he was a dog. We'd roll up pieces of paper and fling them down the hall, and he'd go and get them and bring them back to us. And above all, we had great conversations. And Barb had so many wonderful stories about the work she had been doing as a forensic psychologist in the prison system. She'd been working with law enforcement, and she'd been working with, really hardcore criminals. And at that time, our company was in a state of flux. We were morphing from a small organization to a very large organization. And we were not doing well with the change. We were a young and very inexperienced leadership team, and we had lots of big personalities at the table with divergent, strong opinions. And I was really struggling with how to hold people together. And I was listening to Barb talk through all of her experiences, you know, and at the end of that weekend, I said, sort of half jokingly, but I said, you know, all that work that you did with the criminally insane, Barb, I think you're eminently qualified to come and work with our company. You know, I'm pretty sure I can find a great spot for you. And as it turns out, that was the best decision I ever made. Barb was a brilliant therapist. She literally helped hundreds of our people show up in the best versions of themselves every single day, myself included. She helped us to mediate conflict. She taught our people how to manage very high stress levels. She helped us establish our mental health programs. And she was our pioneer in emotional intelligence development. She was nothing short of amazing. Barb's work was a big factor in our success because, as we all know, a company is only as good as its people, and Barb helped our people get better in every single way. Barb had a gift for listening to people and for making them feel safe. She found ways to bring people together who were polar opposites because she would focus on the things that they had in common. And people always felt that she was treating them with respect and dignity. And she had such tremendous empathy. It was very impactful. I would have to say that her most valuable contribution to the company was when we were going through COVID. We couldn't afford to pay her anything. We couldn't afford to pay anybody anything. But she continued to work and with us when the need was greatest for our people. I'll never be able to thank her enough for that. Our stress levels were off the charts. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that she kept some of us, myself included, from literally jumping off a cliff. She somehow helped us keep the train on the track, and we emerged from that very dark time a wiser and healthier company, thanks to her help. Over time, Barb and I became great friends. When she came to London for work, she would often come to stay at my farm. Those were good times. Great conversations, occasionally wine-fueled, most often wine-fueled, lots of laughs, and if I was lucky, Barb would cook, and she was an absolute whiz in the kitchen. Barb adored all of my dogs, and they adored her. She and my old boy, Beecher, shared a very special bond. Beech was almost blind from birth, so he relied on his other senses to get around, and he seemed to sense that Barb was a very special human. Barb and I would joke that he was the canine equivalent of her sister Sue, and that Beecher would wake up happy and just get happier as the day went along. I once said to Barb that he was a joyful dog, and Barb replied, "Yes, he is irrepressibly effervescent." I thought joyful was a pretty good word. But that was my language lesson for the day from Barbara Jane. She loved words, she loved books, and she loved reading. And if you've been to their house, you would see how true that statement is, because books occupy a prominent place everywhere you look, and Barb had read all of them. I think she would have been an amazing writer if she'd had time. She was my most interesting and well-informed friend, and I miss her dearly. Barb lived her life with passion and purpose, and she was an inspiration to so many of us who were blessed to know her. And that's all really any of us can aspire to. Thank you, Barb, for all you did for us. You were one in a billion.
Thank you, Jane. Now I'd like to call on Tim.
Short people here. Thanks so much. I really do love to look out here and see Barb's world sort of converging. I hope I'm going to do well through this, but she did really ask me to express a couple of thank yous on her behalf. And before I do that, I really want to thank, some of the people who are watching online, especially your stepmom, Jess, in Belleville, and her Aunt Lois and Uncle Les in Ontario, and some of the cousins that could not get here. Thank you all for looking in. I know you are. She left a list, and I first want to thank all of you for coming today, because it's really delightful to have all the support to help celebrate Barb. But she wanted me to expressly thank her birth parents. As most of you know, she was adopted quite at the age of 4 or 5 by Jack and Muriel. But she was always deeply grateful to her birth parents for the gifts they bestowed upon her. And we've heard some of the gifts, you know, the empathy, the intelligence, the sense of humor, that radiant smile. And she wanted me to thank them. I could go on, of course, but just thank them for those gifts. And alongside that, her adoptive parents and her extended adoptive family, who also played a big role in how she developed as a woman. She told me she felt unconditionally loved from day one from Jack and Muriel. And this surely allowed her to develop into the strong, confident woman she was. She wanted me to thank the medical teams that helped us through this 8-month ordeal. The nursing staffs at 3rd floor of Foothills and the 9th floor at Arthur Child. They were, to a person, exemplary in their kindness and professionalism. Dr. Alison Murray, for her kind, patient, and very helpful palliative sessions. And our family GP, Dr. Jody Ornstein, she really went above and beyond, especially in the early going. One last instruction for Barb, from Barb. She was good at giving me instructions. As many of you know, we do have a place in Phoenix, and she very sadly did not get to use it as much as she would have liked. And she wants sincerely to invite any of you or all of you to reach out. If you want to go to Phoenix for a couple of days and I'm not down there, it's turnkey. We have a car. She would love it. If you want to come down and visit me, I would love that. But she wanted you to know she will be there with you if you come and visit. So please do. I met Barb 46 years ago. This week, June 5th, and I am extremely fortunate and very grateful to have experienced her love and compassion all these years. I thought for the better part of 5 months about this time today and this celebration, and the more I thought and the more I wrote and the more I edited, the more I realized the cliche is definitely true with respect to Barb. There aren't enough words, and there are no adequate words to express how much we will all miss her and to really describe who she was. She was a beautiful woman with a 1,000-megawatt smile. She had a beautiful soul, an extremely generous spirit, and if an intellect can be described as such, a beautiful intellect. She was the love of my life, for sure. She was my best friend, and she was the best travel and hiking buddy ever. So just a little background, and some of you know this story. It's one of the good things about being the age some of us in the room are. Second or third time, it's still fresh and exciting. So we met, kind of fittingly as two fitness-focused people. We met, and this is pun intended. I'm sorry, it's a family affliction, and this will be the only one. But we were very fit for each other as well, but we met in a fitness center. It was June 5th, and I had heard about this new club in Stony Creek, Ontario. I thought I'd go in for a little check the place out. And I remember to this day, I was like halfway through my workout, I was trying to squeeze out a few more lat pull downs, and I noticed this quite attractive staff member out of the corner of my eye coming over, and she quite abruptly asked me, "Do you have a membership here?" And that was Barb doing her job, doing it well, and doing the best she could for the people who she was working for. But after the workout, I thought to myself, I kind of like what I see in this gym, if you know what I mean. So I decided to buy a membership, and one of the things with the club then, it was quite cutting edge. Jane's from Good Life Fitness, but it's quite cutting edge at the time. They were offering full fitness testing and assessments, and individualized programs based on your personal goals. And to this day, I don't really know if Barb was randomly assigned to me or whether she lobbied for it. I like to think she lobbied for it, but who knows? I'm forever grateful from myself, from my own point of view, for that serendipitous decision for me to just go to that club on that day and bump into the Barb. But the story goes, the fitness test happened. At the end, I wasn't a real ladies' man. I quite nervously asked her if she played tennis, and she said, "Oh, yes." And I asked her if she liked to play. She said, "Oh, sure." And I learned later that no, she didn't really play tennis. But that was Barb. She wanted to build a connection, and she knew how to do that. She was a good bridge builder. And Barb always loved to tell the story of what happened next, and she always chuckled when she did. Between the fitness test and the next time I saw Barb and my tennis date, I went out for my first session of kind of casual summer hockey, try to stay in shape. And in the excitement of that, I forgot my mouth guard, and a stray stick destroyed my front teeth. I still have nightmares sometimes about it. But Barb loved to tell the story that the next time I saw Barb, just the third time I ever saw Barb, I had no front teeth. This is not a pretty picture, especially for me. But she loved to laugh and say my IQ dropped 50 to 70 points because of that. Lucky for me, the tennis date was already set up. So anyway, we played tennis. We got rained out. We went back to my mom and dad's place. And we walked in the door, and my mom and dad was, "Oh, Barb, are you a tea drinker? Would you like a cup of tea?" "Sure, I love a cup of tea." I learned later it's the first cup of tea she'd ever had in her life. So she's building bridges again. It's what Barb did best, meeting people where they are. Barb was many, many things, had many talents, but above all, she was, for sure, a people person. Innate skills, empathy, compassion, kindness, genuine interpersonal curiosity and understanding. It served her well, it served her client well, and it definitely served me well over the years as her probably most difficult and challenging client. I want to relate one story, if you will, that I think really illustrates much of what Barb did for people and who she was. In 1992, she was in the last stages of her coursework for her PhD, and one of her professors was about to start a study on a comparative study on NGRI decisions in the criminal system in Canada, not guilty by reason of insanity. And the study entailed both interviewing people that were found not guilty by reason of insanity and some pretty dangerous, most people would say nasty criminals that were not afforded that defense, and they wanted to do a sort of personality comparative study. The professor made it very clear that whoever took the job on would have to sit in a room by themselves across a table from some pretty unstable and potentially dangerous people and ask them difficult, challenging questions. Who would do this? I've messed with some big hockey players in my day, but I would not do this. Barb Chambers would do this. She was willing to, because she had gumption, she was confident, she was empathetic, and she was curious. But more than anything, she was a people person, and she saw people, not felons, not inmates. They didn't scare her. She saw them as human beings who deserved some compassion and some understanding. So the fact that she completed the work, volunteered and then completed the work, that's one thing. But what happened next is really Barb. She jumped through a lot of hoops and moved a lot of things around with both the prison and Simon Fraser to get permission to throw a thank you party to all the interviewees. And if you look on the table over here, you can see a scribbly note. It's there. She ordered in pizza and went to the trouble of making a music list, but not just any music list. She wanted to provide some levity and let them have some fun. Very strategic. Eric Clapton, I Shot the Sheriff. Jailhouse Rock. I Fought the Law and the Law Won. And of course, Folsom City, Prison Blues. They loved it. It still gets me. They sang, they danced, they laughed, they had a great time. They profusely thanked Barb at the end. Lots of hugs. True story. This was Barb Chambers. This was her gift. She was remarkable. And I am finishing. I have one last little thing to share with you, and it comes from kind of an unusual source. The Apple miniseries 1883. Are you hearing me all right back there? I hope. I happened to watch this shortly after Barb's passing, and the scene I'm going to share really struck me in a very comforting way. And it stuck with me. It was very useful for me in the recent rafting trip that I was able to do with Barb's blessing. The backdrop of the story is there's a wagon train running from Texas to Montana with a bunch of homesteaders, and the young heroine, Elsa Dutton, is deeply grieving the passing of her very recent newfound love, the man she was going to marry. And Sam Elliott, their curmudgeonly old trail boss, had some words of comfort. He first explained to her that the reason he took the trail boss job was because he wanted to get to the ocean, and it was going to be part of the trip after he was all done. Because it was something he and his departed wife had always wanted to do, but never were able to do. So he shared these words with her. And I can't do Sam's Elliott. I love Sam, but an old Apache friend of mine once told me, when you love someone and commit to someone, you trade souls. You get a piece of their heart, and they get a piece of yours. But when your loved one dies, a little piece of you dies with them. That's why you hurt so bad. But that little piece of their heart is still with you, still inside you. And forever forward, they can use your eyes to see and experience the world. That's why I'm going to the ocean And that's why I went on that rafting trip. I found this, and I still find it very comforting, and I do my best to embrace it every day. Barb is with me. She is with us, and she will be with you in Phoenix if you do come down. And I'm hoping her spirit will guide me to be a better person. She was always nudging me to be better and to challenge myself. And I will say again, she was a beautiful woman with a 1,000-megawatt smile. She had a beautiful soul, an extremely generous spirit, and a beautiful intellect. She was my best friend, the best hiking buddy ever, and the love of my life. I'm deeply grateful for all the memories and all the love. She'll never be forgotten. She was remarkable, and yes, she is unforgettable. Thank you very much, and deeply thank you for coming. And as a hockey guy and a sporting guy, so there's no pregnant silence here while I sit down, how about a standing ovation for Barbara Chambers?
Thank you, Tim. We're going to listen to one more of Barb's favorite songs by Joni Mitchell.
It's coming on Christmas. They're cutting down trees. They're putting up reindeer and singing songs of joy and peace. Oh, I wish I had a river I could skate away on. But it don't snow here. It stays pretty green. I'm gonna make a lot of money, then I'm gonna quit this crazy scene. I wish I had a river I could skate away on. I wish I had a river so long I would teach my feet to fly. Oh, I wish I had a river I could skate away on. I made my baby cry. He tried hard to help me, you know. He put me at ease, and he loved me so. Not he made me weak in the knees. Oh, I wish I had a river I could skate away on. I'm so hard to handle. I'm selfish and I'm sad. Now I gone and lost the best baby that I ever had. Oh, I wish I had a river I could skate away on. I wish I had a river so long I would teach my feet to fly. Oh, I wish I had a river I could skate away on. I made my baby say goodbye. It's coming on Christmas. They're cutting down trees. They're putting up reindeer, singing songs of joy and peace. I wish I had a river I could skate away on.
Now we're going to enjoy a snack and a drink and mingle. Open mic in about 15 or 20 minutes, and don't forget about the bags.